So I'm looking around, and you don't look like many of you can remember the dawn of time back in the late 90s when the internet was just evolving. But maybe some of you can try and think back to what it was like in the late 90s. That's when I was starting my first business with my friend Brent, lastminute.com. And I was thinking about it when I was thinking about what I wanted to say to you this morning, because back then in the late 90s, we were quite happily starting a website, really feeling excited about the promise of technology, what was going to happen in the UK. We were feeling excited by a change of government, a change of focus into our country. It felt as though there was a whole new wave of energy around businesses, startups, entrepreneurs, and the arrival of the internet. We didn't think for 1 second about the impact on the climate of us sending people to New York on short flights for £99. We celebrated it. I remember writing taglines saying, "Live your dreams at unbeatable prices, go away at the last minute, be spontaneous, have fun, be romantic." Well, looking back now, nearly 25 years later, I think that two of the most significant trends that I can remember in my business life are converging and becoming even more pressing and important. One is digitization, the continued digitization, and one is the climate catastrophe and what we do about it as business. For me, neither are negotiable. Businesses that opt in to getting ahead of both those things are the ones that will be successful, that will contribute to a bold and strong and resilient UK, and will be competitive themselves. That's why I was so thrilled to be asked to be president of the British Chambers of Commerce 3 years ago, and I'm devastated that my term is coming to an end this year. I've had the enormous joy of going around the country meeting so many businesses and seeing the incredible impact that they have on the landscape around them and the wider society and economy that we live in. And most businesses I meet don't get out of bed to do something bad. They get out of bed to do something good, to contribute, to make a difference. And that includes impact on the climate. Even in the massive headwinds that we're facing right now, the challenges both geopolitically and economically more locally, most businesses I talk to still want to commit to doing the right thing, to treating their employees well, and to considering profit and planet in equal measure. And I think some of the numbers that we just saw bear that out as well. But in my opinion, we need to go much further and much faster. Last week, I was in the US. I was at a conference called the Milken Conference. Not quite as fancy as this conference here, but in the US, they sort of think of it a bit like Davos in the US, I guess. It was a real snapshot of what corporate America is feeling right now, with a heavy dose of the current administration thrown in as well. And I came back feeling quite chastened, if I'm honest. The UK is going to have to make a big effort to sell itself in the world right now. America is focused pretty much on itself, feeling pretty triumphant, thinking that its economy is the strongest and the most resilient in the world. And the people I met were not so interested in what was happening in Europe. If anywhere, they were looking towards the Middle East for investment opportunities, for business opportunities. So we're going to have to build our own case with even more strength and even more advocacy and even more sales, something that I don't believe we've been specifically very good at in the UK in the past. And I think we need to make our case around two very strong planks. The first is our forward-facing economy, our digitized economy. That's not just about hosting the latest startup, the latest digital business, although that is important. And we are doing pretty well. We have massive investment into the technology sector, unrecognizable compared to when we were starting in the late 90s. But it's also about continuing to build our sustainability credentials and show our commitment to the future of this planet. And the two are linked, of course. One of the things that's been amazing is to learn about all the incredible opportunities that the British Chambers Network and members are doing alongside their own businesses in relation to sustainability, whether it's changing their supply chains, whether it's using AI to do special, clever things, whether it's just making sure that they are thinking about opportunities in clean energy, new kinds of technologies to enable us all to thrive on this planet. But we need to go much faster and much further. And that for me comes down to three things. The first is making sure that we have the skills, and that was reflected again in the numbers that you were just voting on. We need to make sure that all through our businesses, we are able to think about the technologies that we are faced with, and we are thinking about the green skills that we need. The British Chambers has been running local skills improvements plans. Maybe some of you have worked with them on them. Ways that join up local areas with the business needs and the business skills needs that they have into the future. And it's been relatively successful. But we need to go further and faster. I urge everyone to think about how to make sure that their businesses are ready for the dual challenge of the age of AI and the age of climate emergency. And that will be reinventing our businesses. It will be thinking about what are the tools of the modern age that can help us make sure that we have the most robust businesses into the next decade. We know that small and medium-sized businesses are facing massive economic headwinds right now. Of course, some of the things that fall off people's priority lists are skills training and making sure that they're transitioning to net zero. But ironically, it's never been more important to keep a focus on both those things. When I look at the numbers coming from the BCC network, I have real empathy and sympathy, but it does make me feel anxious. 84% of our businesses last year said that they didn't think that they were adopting AI fast enough. And yet we are now living in an AI-first world. If we can disseminate this technology quickly through our economy, we will be in a very competitive and globally competitive position. That will give us a real tool. So that's the first thing I think we need to do. We need to focus on skills. We need to focus on continued digitization. But the second thing we need to do is equally important, and I've been thinking about this a lot, especially since I came back from the US. We need to sell our story, and we need to sell it boldly. That's why networks like this and days like this and events like this are so important. We're not very good at telling our story in the UK. Sometimes we talk about it slightly in self-deprecating tone. Well, that's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it when we're faced with the US feeling triumphant or the Middle East building such a case for green investment and such a case for it being the future of the global economy. We need to make sure that people understand we stand for a diverse, a digitized, and a sustainable economy. And I believe if we do those things, we'll have a real shot at being a global powerhouse again over the next decade. Because those values matter. And they've never mattered more, especially in the face of slightly different emphasis in other economies in the world. Those are the values that I see when I travel around the British Chambers network. I know they're values that Glasgow has and have held dear since hosting COP26 in 21. And I really hope that I can urge all of you to go further and faster and keep those values at your core. Keep those important and different voices in the room. Keep the importance of diversity, digitization, and sustainability at your heart, because then I believe we will have a shot at countering some of the global difficulties and making sure the UK is seen as one of the best places to do a green digital business. Thank you.